hiding in my son's car for a birthday surprise. I heard him and my ex-sister-in-law plot to steal my house and life savings, and laugh about how much I trusted him. The weight of a stethoscope, the hospital air was a familiar soup of antiseptic, stale coffee, and underlying anxiety. My shift in the cardiology ward had been a marathon 12 hours of controlled chaos. Mrs. Henderson had coded a frantic electric dance that ended, thankfully, with her steady pulse thrumming under my fingertips. Mr. Jacobs had gripped my hand, his papery skin trembling as I explained his new medication for the third time. I fetched blankets, administered nitroglycerin, charted symptoms, and offered smiles that were as much a part of the treatment plan as the 4 drips. My feet throbbed in their sensible clogs, a familiar symphony of ache. But as I clocked out, shrugging off my blue scrubs top and pulling on a worn denim jacket, a different pulse beat within me, anticipation. It was April 12th, Jamal's 24th birthday. I walked to my own car, a sensible, silver sedan that bore the scratches and dents of a life spent in service ferrying. Jamal to soccer practice, hauling groceries, commuting through countless pre-dawn shifts. It was reliable. It was paid for, just like the 3-bedroom craftsman house waiting for me in the quiet, tree-lined neighborhood of Maplewood. Just like my life, but tonight, reliability was not the goal. Whimsy was, or a ghost of it, driving towards Jamal's apartment complex, a modern cluster of buildings that always felt slightly transient to me. I replayed the plan. It was a silly one born of nostalgia. When Jamal was small, his favorite game was Car Surprise. I'd hide in the back of our old station wagon, buried under blankets, and wait for him to get in after school. He'd pretend to drive, chattering to his imaginary co-pilot, and I'd wait for the perfect moment to erupt from the covers, roaring like a monster. His shrieks of delight were my personal currency. He was too old for that now. A grown man with a business degree, a marketing job he found soul-crushing but necessary, and a girlfriend, Chloe, who seemed nice enough if a bit perpetually glued to her phone. But he'd been stressed lately, short-tempered on our weekly calls, complaining about corporate ladder climbing and vague money troubles. I wanted to bridge the gap, to remind him and maybe myself of a simpler connection. In the passenger seat beside me sat a carefully wrapped box. Inside was the latest model smartwatch, the one he'd sent me a link to months ago with the message, "Look at this beauty." One day, right? It had taken 3 extra shifts and a month of skipping my own small luxuries, the hardcover books, the good salon haircut to afford it. The sacrifice was part of the gift's texture to me. Each missed lunch was a layer of love embedded in the sleek titanium casing. I pulled into the lot of his building, the Verve Apartments, and there it was, his car. A blue Honda Civic, a few years old. I'd co-signed the loan, of course. His father, Marcus, had vanished into a new life and a new family in Denver a decade ago, leaving financial wreckage in his wake. The car was a milestone we'd reached together, a symbol of his independence and my support. Seeing it parked there, under the flickering amber glow of a parking lot light, felt like an invitation. The plan crystallized, perfectly absurd. I'd hide in the back, wait for him. When he got in, I'd pop up, present the watch, and take him out for a steak dinner, his favorite. We'd laugh. He'd roll his eyes at my cheesiness, but he'd be pleased. I'd see that light in his eyes, the one that had been dimming lately. Giggling softly to myself, a sound that felt foreign. Girly, I grabbed the gift and my purse. I glanced around. The lot was quiet. I tried the back door of the Honda. Unlocked. Jamal. Still so careless. A flare of maternal irritation was quickly smothered by my mission's whimsy. The interior smelled of him, his citrus and sandalwood cologne, the mint of his gum, the faint, clean scent of the protein bars he lived on. It was a familiar aroma that tugged at my heart. I climbed in, crouching low behind the driver's seat. His gym bag was on the floor and a worn, gray hooded jacket was tossed across the back. I pulled it over myself, a thin camouflage. The wrapped box I held tight to my chest, a shield and a promise. My heart wasn't just racing with joy now. It was a frantic bird against my ribs, a mix of excitement and the physical discomfort of my knees pressing into the footwell. I waited. 5 minutes, 10. The darkness under the jacket was warm and close. I heard the distant sounds of the city, a dog barking, a car door slamming elsewhere. I thought of all the times I'd waited for him outside school, in hospital waiting rooms during his childhood asthma attacks, for his key to turn in our front door after a late night out. Waiting was a mother's native state. Then, footsteps. Firm, familiar, the quick, impatient stride I'd know anywhere. The driver's door opened with a metallic creak. The car dipped with his weight. Jamal sighed, a long, heavy exhalation that seemed to carry the weight of the world. It was a sigh I'd heard increasingly, a sigh that prompted my gentle, probing questions that he'd always deflect. "Just work, Mom, don't worry." He started the engine. The radio, tuned to a hip-hop station he loved, blared to life for a second before he quickly turned it off. Silence again, but for the engine's hum. Then, the passenger door opened. A new weight settled into the car. A woman's voice, soft, melodious, and chillingly familiar, pierced the quiet. "You sure she's not home tonight?" Not Chloe. Chloe's voice was higher, with a slight vocal fry. This voice was smoother, older. A cold trickle, like the first drop of a winter four, traced my spine. Jamal laughed. It was a low, easy sound, devoid of the strained tension he often had with me. "Nah, Mom's pulling another double. Cardiac wings swamped. She thinks I'm at the gym." "We're good." "She thinks I'm at the gym." The words were simple, a white lie to enable a private birthday dinner with a friend, perhaps. But the tone, it was dismissive, a casual manipulation of my predictable dedication. The cold trickle became a stream. My breath hitched. I pressed my face into the rough fabric of the jacket, my eyes straining in the dark. I shifted a millimeter, creating a tiny gap near the seatbelt anchor. The interior dome light had been on briefly. In the sliver of my newfound view, I saw the profile of the woman settling into the passenger seat, smoothing her expensive-looking wool coat. Blonde hair styled in a sleek bob, a glint of diamond studs. Lisa Vance, my ex-sister-in-law, Marcus's younger sister. The divorce 10 years ago had been a war of quiet attrition, and Lisa had been Marcus's fiercest general. She'd blamed me for driving him away, for being too focused on that hospital and the boy, for not being the glamorous, accommodating wife she thought her brother deserved. The last time I'd seen her was at Marcus's father's funeral 5 years ago. She'd offered a brittle, wordless nod from across the gravesite, and now she was here in my son's car in the secret dark. The car pulled out of the parking spot. The world began to move. "So, you got the papers?" Jamal asked, his voice all business. "Yeah," Lisa replied. I heard the rustle of fine leather, the snap of a clasp. She pulled an envelope from her bag. "Everything's in order. Power of attorney durable, springing upon a physician's declaration of incapacity, but the wording is flexible. The house deed transfer, pre-filled, just needs her signature to initiate. Even the bank forms, linking her primary accounts to a new joint one you'll control. Once she signs, thinking it's just routine. Stuff for your new business. Venture. It's all effectively yours." She let out a small, cruel chuckle. "She trusts you too much, Jamal. That's her weakness. It always has been." Each word was a scalpel, precise and devastating. Power of attorney. Deed transfer. Bank forms. The legal jargon spun in the dark, forming a latticework of theft. My house. The one I'd fought for in the divorce. Buying out Marcus's share with every penny of my savings. And a second mortgage. I was still paying. The house where I'd nursed Jamal through flu and heartbreak. where I'd painted his room from blue to gray as he grew, where the ghost of our old family mingled with the sweat of my solitary labor, my savings. The night shift fund, I called it. Money accumulated from years of volunteering for holiday and overnight shifts. The lonely hours when the hospital was a tomb and my thoughts were my only company. It was for his graduate school, or a down payment on his own home, or a safety net for the future. The clock in the nurse's station read 7:03 p.m. My fingers, swollen and aching after 16 hours on my feet, fumbled with the clasp of my fob watch. The din of a constant symphony of beeping monitors, hurried footsteps, and low, pained murmurs faded into a dull roar as I finally slid the timepiece into my locker. It was Friday. More importantly, it was Jamal's 24th birthday. Fatigue was a lead cloak on my shoulders, but beneath it, a girlish excitement fizzed in my veins. For weeks, I'd planned this. My son, my only child, had become a polite stranger in recent years. A busy, sleek young man with a tech job downtown and a condo in the newly developed East Side. Our conversations were checklists. How's work? Fine. Need anything? I'm good. The easy laughter, the spontaneous hugs, the shared bowls of popcorn during terrible movies all seemed relics of a simpler past, buried under his ambition and my own relentless work to secure his future. Tonight, I wanted to dig them up. I wanted to be the mom who surprised him with a scavenger hunt leading to a new bike, the mom who filled his college dorm with balloons. That mom still lived inside me. Beneath the starch of my scrubs and the permanent worry lines on my brow, in my tote bag, nestled next to my stethoscope and a half-eaten granola bar, was a carefully wrapped box containing the latest model smartwatch. He'd sent me a link 3 months ago with the text, "Look at this tech, Mom. Isn't it wild?" His version of a hint. It cost me a small fortune, nearly 2 weeks' salary after taxes. But the image of his face lighting up, a genuine, unguarded smile reaching his espresso brown eyes. So like, his father's was worth every penny. The drive to his apartment building, a sleek glass and steel structure that always felt vaguely hostile, took 20 minutes. I spotted his car immediately. The old blue Honda Civic I'd co-signed for last year, parked in its usual spot under a flickering street lamp. A wave of fondness washed over me. He'd refused a flashier model, insisting this was responsible. My prudent boy. The sight was a promise. He was home, and my plan was intact. Parking my own sensible sedan a row away, I grabbed the gift and approached his car. The late April air was cool, carrying the scent of damp concrete and distant cherry blossoms. A giggle, unbidden and youthful, escaped my lips as I tried the rear door. Unlocked. Still so trusting. I thought a maternal chide mixing with my glee. Jamal always forgot to lock his doors. The interior smelled of him, his sandalwood air freshener, the faint, sharp note of his deodorant, and underneath, the ghost of fast food. I slid onto the back seat, the leather creaking under my weight. Crouching low behind the driver's seat, I arranged myself, my knees protesting. His gray gym jacket was flung across the back. I pulled it over my head and shoulders, a flimsy but symbolic camouflage. In the darkness, with the gift box pressed to my thudding heart, I was invisible. I was just Mom, about to pull off the best surprise. Time stretched. I rehearsed my line in my head. Surprise, baby boy. I'd pop up, he'd jump, then he'd laugh that deep, rolling laugh that shook his whole frame. Maybe we'd go for dinner? Maybe he'd actually tell me about his life. Footsteps, crisp, confident, approaching from the building's entrance. My breath hitched. The driver's door opened and the car dipped with his weight. Jamal. He let out a long, weary sigh as he settled in, a sound I knew well, a sigh of a long day. The engine coughed to life, the radio flicking on to a low hum of a jazz station he'd cultivated a taste for. He was early. I've expected him to come down later, around 8, based on his vague text about maybe hitting the gym. Then, the passenger door opened. A swirl of cooler air, a different perfume, expensive, floral, with a hint of spice. Not the sweet coconut scent of his girlfriend, Maya. This was older, more assertive. A woman's voice, soft, cultured, and horribly familiar, sliced through the jazz. You sure she's not home tonight? Every muscle in my body locked. That voice belonged to a ghost from a past I'd sealed shut. Lisa. Jamal laughed. It was a sound I didn't recognize, low, dismissive, devoid of its usual warmth. Nah, Mom's pulling another double. Cardiac arrest came in just as her shift was ending. She texted, "She thinks I'm at the gym." "We're good." The words were casual, but their content was a physical blow. He'd seen my text. He'd known I was staying late, and he'd used it, weaponized my sacrifice as cover. The ice that flooded my veins wasn't metaphorical. It was a paralyzing cold that started in my chest and radiated outwards, freezing the tears that sprang to my eyes. Lisa, my ex-sister-in-law, settled into the seat. Through a tiny gap in the fabric of the gym jacket, I saw a sliver of her profile, the sharp bob of highlighted hair, the glint of a diamond stud earring. 10 years. It had been 10 years since the divorce from her brother Marcus, and in that time, she'd transformed from a chilly relative to an outright enemy. At the last family funeral, she'd looked right through me. Her narrative was unwavering. I had driven her brilliant, sensitive brother away with my nagging and emotional neediness. I had ruined him. The car pulled out of the parking spot, smooth and easy. My world tilted on its axis. "So, you got the papers?" Jamal asked. His tone was businesslike. "Yeah," Lisa replied. I heard the rustle of high-quality paper, the snap of a leather bag clasp. "Everything's in order." The power of attorney is broad, covers assets, property, healthcare. The house I transferred just needs her signature to be notarized. I even had my guy draw up the bank forms, linking her main savings to a new operational account you'll control. She paused, and I could hear the slick, smug smile in her voice. Once she signs, thinking it's just routine. Stuff for your new business. Venture, it's effectively all yours. She trusts you too much, Jamal. That's always been her weakness. A sound escaped me, a tiny, trapped animal whimper, but it was lost under the purr of the engine and their conversation. Jamal chuckled. That cold, alien chuckle again. She's been working herself to the bone for me since Dad left. Night shifts, double shifts, skipping vacations. All that for my future talk, he mimicked my voice. A cruel, high-pitched parody that lacerated my soul. "Tom, I get what's mine. This is just retroactive. Payment for a childhood spent." Listening to her complain about being tired. After this, we sell the house. Split the proceeds 70-30 as agreed, and I'm out. No more pretending to care about her. Sacrifices. No. More listening to stories about patience she can't save. It's depressing. Lisa gave a approving hum. The house is the real prize. Paid off. Prime location. My brother was a fool to let her have it in the settlement. We're just correcting his mistake. Each word was a precise surgical instrument, dissecting my life, my love, my very reason for being. The memories they trampled flashed before my eyes. Jamal at 8, crying because his father didn't show for his baseball game, and me holding him all night. Jamal at 16, wanting the latest laptop for coding, and me selling my mother's pearl necklace to afford it. The countless times I'd eaten cereal for dinner so he could have steak. The retroactive payment for his childhood? His childhood was the only thing of value I thought I'd ever created. The house. My little, yellow frame house fine I'd nursed back to health. The house where I'd rocked him to sleep, helped him with calculus, and wept silent tears of pride at his graduation pictures on the mantle. It was the last tangible piece of my stability, my sanctuary, and they were discussing its theft like it was a stock trade. What about the retirement accounts? Jamal asked, his voice all casual avarice. The POA covers them, Lisa assured him. We move slowly, methodically. A transfer here, a withdrawal there. We blame market fluctuations, administrative fees. She's not financially sophisticated. Jamal, she balances her checkbook, but she doesn't understand derivatives and asset reallocation. By the time she senses something's wrong, you'll be in another country and I'll be regrettably uninformed. No, revelation was not a weapon. It was a vulnerability. I had to get out. I had to escape this metal box of betrayal and think. The instinct for self-preservation, long dormant under layers of maternal self-sacrifice, surged to the fore. It was ugly and desperate, but it was powerful. I focused on my breathing, on the feel of the car's vibrations. We were on a long, straight stretch of freeway. Then, the telltale slowing, the red glow bathing the interior. A traffic light, a long one at a major intersection. As the car came to a full stop, I moved with a stealth born of pure adrenaline. My fingers, so clumsy with my fob watched an hour ago, found the door lock toggle and silently pressed it. The soft thunk was masked by the jazz and their low conversation about a mutual fund. Lisa could redirect. I eased the door open a crack, the cool night air a slap of sanity. The gift box was a liability. I left it on the seat, a discarded relic of a dead fantasy. The light was still red. Counting seconds in my head, I prepared. The light turned green. Jamal eased his foot onto the accelerator. The car began to creep forward. Now, in one fluid, desperate motion, I pushed the door wider, tucked my head, and rolled out onto the rough, grassy verge of the roadside. The world became a blur of concrete sky and the stinging slap of duet grass. I tumbled, my scrubs snagging, the breath knocked from my lungs. I came to a stop in a ditch, partially hidden by a cluster of young birch trees. I lay there gasping as the red taillights of Jamal's Honda receded into the stream of traffic. Utterly unaware, they'd felt nothing, heard nothing. I was already a ghost to them. The physical pain was a welcome distraction from the psychic evisceration. My side ached where I'd landed, my knees were scraped raw, and my palms were embedded with gravel. I pushed myself up, my entire body trembling. I was a mile from the nearest exit, on the side of a busy highway, disheveled and bleeding. I must have looked like a car crash victim. I didn't care. I stumbled away from the road, deeper into the copse of trees, and sank to the ground. Then, the sobs came. They were not gentle tears, but great, wrenching heaves that tore from my chest, silent and violent. I cried for the boy I'd lost. I cried for the woman I'd been, the trusting, loving fool. I cried until I was hollow, until there was nothing left but a cold, hard certainty. I would not go home. Not tonight. The thought of walking into that yellow house, filled with his childhood photos, his old trophies, the scent of him still in his room, was unbearable. It was no longer a sanctuary. It was the scene of a future crime. I fished my phone from my pocket. It was cracked from the fall, but it worked. I scrolled past Jamal's name, past a dozen unread messages from friends asking about birthday plans. I found the name I needed. Eleanor Vance, ESQ. Some surprises change everything. That one changed me from a mother who gave everything to a woman who finally learned to protect herself. The journey back was long. Therapy helped. Eleanor's unwavering friendship was a lifeline. I sold the yellow house a year later. Its memories were too poisoned. I bought a smaller, sun-filled condo overlooking the river. I took a vacation, my first real one in 20 years, to Greece, and I swam in an azure sea that felt like washing away an old skin. Jamal tried once more. 6 months later, through a weepy, manipulative email blaming Lisa, blaming stress, blaming my pressure for his success, I didn't respond. I forwarded it to Eleanor and deleted it. The legal actions she'd taken made any attempt at contact from Lisa or him legally, perilous for them. I learned to find joy in small things, the quiet of my own space, the loyalty of my friends, the profound satisfaction of my work, where I could still care for others without losing myself. The love I'd poured into Jamal didn't vanish. It redirected, flowing back into me, into my garden on my balcony, into mentoring young nurses. And honestly, I'm not sorry. So what do I think? Should I have confronted them right there in the car? Absolutely not. That confrontation would have been a momentary, explosive release of pain, followed by vulnerability and danger. My silent escape was not cowardice. It was the first and most crucial act of self-protection. It gave me the power of knowledge, the element of surprise, and the clear-headed space to defend my life. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is not fight in the moment, but live to win the war. And I did.